Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. Today we're here with Phil as usual. Hey Phil.
Hey Rohan, how's it going?
Good. And we do have a special guest, Mr. Marlon. How are you, Marlon?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
This episode is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabu Casa. Easily access your local Home Assistant instance remotely for a small monthly fee that supports the Home Assistant and ESP Home projects. Configuration is done by the user interface, so there's no fiddling with router settings, SSL certificates, or any YAML.
So first and foremost, Marlon, you've written a book on smart homes.
I did, yeah.
that. First of all, that's really cool. I want to hear about the experience of doing that.
Yeah.
But you know, if just for everybody listening, if you aren't familiar, why don't you tell us a little bit about the title of the book, who you are, and what's going on in it?
Sure. The title of the book is The Smart Home Manual, and I wrote the book for people who are just getting into smart homes or just have an interest and want to know about how to build a smart home, what kinds of things you can do with a smart home, how much a smart home costs, what are the different technologies involved. It's not really a book that's going to give you like a manual, although it's called a manual. It's going to give you a manual on how to use Google Home, how to use Amazon's Assistant, and how to use all those other things. It'll just teach you about them, give you an idea of what you can do with them, and help you plan, budget, and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, if I wrote it specific to technologies, it would already be out of date. So so it's just a book out there for people who are really interested at probably at beginner and medium level, and it would have been a book I would have liked to have read when I was really just starting to play around with this stuff about a decade ago. Yeah. A lot of the technologies like Z-Wave and Zigbee are still the same. So that's pretty much all it's about.
And that's probably the best way to write it, right? Like it's something that you would find that I think, one, it helps you learn. Like you probably, writing the book, have learned some more, right? And, you know, like just being able to share that your experience and helping people avoid some of the mistakes that you may have made, or, you know, some things that you sort of just didn't understand along the way. It's the perfect way to introduce other people to the space too. Yeah,
that's exactly it. And then just giving people idea. I mean, I think a lot of people don't even realize the kind of things you can do with a smart home. So they just think they kind of really put you in a little box. But there's all kinds of things. It gives you ideas of different builds you can do for different budgets, and so it's exactly what I would have wanted. And I did have to do some research, even though I've been building smart homes for a bit. Yeah. But it was a good process. It was fun.
That's awesome. So obviously we are the Home Assistant podcast, so I'm guessing you must use Home Assistant, right?
Yes, I definitely use Home Assistant. I am very glad that I do.
All right.
If not, feel free to leave the shut. Not kidding.
Yeah.
I tell people it's the best smart home decision I've made in the last period. To go to Home Assistant.
So did you start off with Home Assistant? Like, what's your home automation journey, I guess?
So when I first started getting into what I call real home automation, I was using a Verilight. That's what I started with. Wow. And it was just totally Z-Wave for the most part, and Verilight had some other integrations, and I tried that, but it started to get a little old. It was getting to the unsupported part. I think I had wrote a script that reboots it every day so it would stay stable.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's time for me to look for something else. And I was looking through a few things. I was looking at OpenHab and other ones. And then the response I got just asking a few questions for Home Assistant from the community was incredible. And I was like, well, this is where I'm going to go, because whatever help I'm going to need, I'm probably going to get if I go with Home Assistant. Mm-hmm. And so about 3 years ago, I decided to just give it a try. And it was incredible how quickly it integrated with everything I already had, and how quickly it was to get up and running. It took really just a couple of hours to do all the stuff I already had and actually feel like and replicate all my automations and everything. It just, it was incredible.
That's actually really, really cool. So I know one of the couple of things that you talked about, you just mentioned rather, is like you built a script to restart your Vera, so on and so forth. So is it? Do you come from a technical background in this sense then?
Yeah. So I have a pretty technical background. I started off my career as a computer scientist, although I haven't written code professionally for 20 years, so I don't really consider myself a professional coder anymore. And I still work in IT. I'm an IT director at the University of Washington.
Awesome.
Nice.
That's so okay. So there was a lot of knowledge there that kind of transferred through and so on as well. So
they didn't teach smart homes in college. I can tell you that.
That's right. You know what?
They probably do now.
There's an idea, right? That's right. But okay. So that's kind of cool. So you've been into home automation for a little bit. I guess you said roughly about 10 years, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's wicked. So what do you use today in your smart home? Like, how do you run it? How do you?
Oh man, I got a lot of stuff. I've accumulated a lot of stuff over the years. So I think most of my devices are Z-Wave. So I have Z-Wave multi-sensors for temperature, humidity, and motion. I have Z-Wave light switches and Z-Wave tilt sensors that I use for my garage doors. And I combine those with, I use a lot of Shelleys. That's probably my favorite the Shelly one is probably my favorite home automation device.
Okay.
And I use those all over the place for light switches, for the garage door openers. I use Z-Wave door locks and just a ton of stuff that I use. Yeah. And it's nice that the Home Assistant integrates with my security system, so I can do a lot of things there with integrating lights and integrating the Google Homes with my security system, so I can make the Google Homes be even louder. They basically are sirens for my alarm system, and they talk to if there's an intruder, they'll tell them, "You've got to leave now."
I'm sure I'm much politer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please exit my premise. Thank you.
Yes, and then it plays a loud siren all throughout the house, each place where I have one of those.
That's actually kind of cool. I've been wanting to actually look at doing something like that because when I first moved in the house, I was like, I need to get sirens, and then I was like, do I want to deal with that? Yeah. Right. And so what is it that you're doing? Are you running an MP3 through there, just a really loud siren sound or something like that?
Yeah. So I was just searching for some MP3s, and so what I have it do is I using the Home Assistant the Nabu Casa voices.
Yeah.
I think I used an English voice to make it nice and proper. That's right. And I have it basically tell a message that the authorities have been called, and then I just pipe through an MP3 that plays for about a minute, and then it repeats that cycle for about 5 minutes. It'll give you the warning and then tell you, and then play the siren at a really loud volume.
Okay.
Right.
Got it. That's which is handy, right? And is that something you force through, like repeat it, like once a minute? Is it once a minute the automation runs? Because what happens if somebody goes, "Hey, stop," right? Like, "Hey, whatever," whether it's the Amazon Echo or Google Home or whatever, stop. Does that actually stop the sound? Does that and then do you force it?
It would still repeat. It is a automation that'll just run once a minute, so it'll still repeat it.
Okay.
Nice.
Again in a minute, even if they were to stop it, and then they'd have to stop it all over because I got like a couple of these on each floor of the house. So.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, because that was my big thing. Is I'm like, well, what if somebody just says like, "Hey, stop," or mutes it, or does one of those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
Does the Google Home come in as like a media player into Home Assistant?
Yep.
Then what you can do is like on the trigger that it stop goes from like playing to whatever other state, you then just re-trigger the automation, right?
Yeah.
So that way, as soon as they say stop, your automation then re-triggers and starts it all over again.
I could do that, yeah, instead of just doing it by time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I feel like I need to take notes. Yeah.
That's it. Don't worry, we're very cheap. Every idea will cost you $1. All right.
That's right. Quickly come up with more ideas. Yeah.
You've got your Z-Wave devices. Are they still going through your Vera Lite, or have you moved over to a different like hub to connect those through to Home Assistant?
I've moved those straight into Home Assistant using a Z-Wave stick.
Yep.
For about a year, I ran it through the Vera Lite, and then I took the plunge to transfer them all over. And I got the Nortec Z-Wave stick, which also does Zigbee, because I have a couple of Zigbee devices, like a Zigbee fan. So it's kind of nice to have it both in one. And yeah, it took a while because I've got like 40 or 50 Z-Wave devices, but I eventually moved them all over to Home Assistant.
So where did you move out? Are you using the new, like, I know in the recent releases, Home Assistant's gone, like using Z-Wave JS now, I think it's called. Are you using that, or have you got like the old Z-Wave integration running?
I've got the old integration running.
The Open Z-Wave one?
Yeah. And I am going to move over to the new one, but I'm waiting since they said there's going to be an easier migration path, although it doesn't look like it's too hard now. I'm just going to wait for it to be more automated, and then I'll move over because I'm not really having too many problems with my Z-Wave network. There's a couple of things that are a little slow to respond every once in a while.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's perfectly fine. So I'm not in a hurry to move it, and I'll just do it when it's easier.
Yeah. I think that's That's fair, because the last thing you want to have to do is go around and repair everything, right? Like that.
Yeah. I've already done that once. When I moved it over, that was a lot of work.
Yeah, only once. You're lucky. I remember, like, I actually did the opposite to you. I had a Z-Wave USB stick, and I was running it through Open Z-Wave as well. And eventually, like, just the compatibility with devices down under, it was just ridiculous. So I actually bought a Vera Lite, and now I use a Vera Lite. It's just a Z-Wave gateway to me, right? So all my devices are hooked in that, but I don't want to have to repair everything, man. Like, it's just a pain in the ass having to go around, especially all those motion sensors. And then if you're plugging them in via USB, then they've got to be paired a certain way, or you've got to make sure that they're plugged in if they're going to be powered USB, you've got to pair them as plugged in. And I've stressed just thinking about having to repair everything.
Yeah, and Z-Wave holds everything on the stick, if I'm not mistaken, right? Not on, because Zigbee, I'm fairly certain, holds it in an external database or something like that. Like in ZHA, I think they've got the Zigbee database. So even, I've never tried it, but I guess if you switch out your stick, in theory, it should still keep working. I don't know if there's some kind of tie-in, but I'm sure I'll get corrected at some point. But
that is a good thing. When I move to a new integration, I shouldn't have to repair anything because it's all paired with the stick for the Z-Wave.
Correct.
But I think I have to do a lot of renaming of entities and other things.
Yeah.
Even that.
That's another problem, right? Like.
That's where you use your programming background to come up with a script to do it for you.
That's right. It's one of those things where it'll probably take me longer to write the script and test it and get it right than to do it manually. But
100%. It'll take you at least twice as long to do it that way. But of course, that is the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because why would you do it easily?
Yeah, so I can do it again in 5 years and have the script ready. Yeah.
Exactly. In case it never happens again.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, that's interesting.
So your Z-Wave locks, are they like code-based locks, or how do they work?
So they're Yale Z-Wave locks. They do have a key that you can still use. They're the deadbolts for my doors.
Nice.
They do have a keypad that you can use, and they still have a key that you can use, although I don't ever carry the key anymore.
That's awesome.
But yeah, they're just and then you enter a code, 8-digit code, and you can get in.
Do you have the ability to set a code on the fly? Like, could you, like, if you needed to give someone access temporarily to your house, could you, like, dial into Home Assistant, say, put in a new code, and then tell the person via text, all right, enter this code now, it should let you in? Or is it all pre-configured? I can't do that, or I haven't set it up so I can do that via the interface, although I probably could. But you can't. There's a service call I can do that I can send a code. Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
And the nice part is, I can also tell who entered what code, and I have automations that tell me like which person unlocked the door and that kind of thing. So I can do that for guests too. Yeah. So I have a generic guest code that I can give out now, and every so often I can just change it. But I always know when that code is used as opposed to a different one.
Right. Guest has entered the house or whatever. That's awesome.
Oh, that's cool. So you could do things like in automations, you could have like a guest code that only works, Monday to Friday or only on the weekends. And then in Home Assistant, you would have the automation that go, all right, on Saturday morning, disable that code. And then Monday morning, re-enable it. That is cool. And then
I haven't done that, but I could, yeah.
Yeah. You can even get it to randomly generate your thing every week, right? And
probably,
whatever every week.
And then in Home Assistant...
there's another $1 for you guys.
Yeah, that's it.
Right?
And then in Home Assistant, you have the visibility to see who entered the code. Like...
Yeah. So I wrote, since I pre-programmed all the codes, I just wrote an automation that basically just sends me a notification when a code is used. Well, mostly when my son uses a code. It's just, this is totally geared towards my kids. So knowing when they get home and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm just thinking of like Airbnb people, like this would be like a great way to like randomize a code, and disable codes when people check out and all that. Like, very cool.
Yeah, it makes me so jealous because so I have, again, I think I talked about this. I got a Kivo smart lock at some point, right? And I hate it, right? and it's one of those things I'd really much rather it be a Zigbee or Z-Wave, literally anything else.
Yeah.
And it's like because I don't know if you've seen the Kivo ones, but basically you can just tap the lock and it. There's a little light LED strip.
I almost got the same thing. Like,
It's the worst. Sometimes it literally takes like 15, 20 seconds for it to recognize. A lot of times it times out, and like literally my phone is in front of my face right in front of the lock. And it's like, so it's not that it can't hear it or anything like that. It's just, it's just painful. And so hearing this, Marlon, definitely makes me jealous. But the only issue is I had at the time, nowadays there's smaller form factor locks because of whatever genius built my door. There's a window in it, but the window is very close to where the lock hole is, so I actually can't use other like slightly larger than whatever this form factor is. Just won't work for me. So I actually did end up buying before this one I ended up buying an August, and after the August I bought some other one, and neither one of those fit, right? And luckily wherever I bought them from had a decent return policy, and I was like, listen, it didn't work for me. They're like, okay, cool, whatever. But
sounds like you just need a new door.
Genuinely, I think I've said this for about 4 years now to my girlfriend. I'm like, I hate my door. like it is just it's the weirdest thing to dislike in a house, but nothing makes me angrier than that door.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky that the standard locks fit on mine pretty well. And, I just have a Yale lock. I've had it for literally a long time. I've had no reason to replace it, and I prefer the Z-Wave just because I'm paranoid, and it's probably a little more obscure for someone to try and hack and get into. So
definitely.
I just I think I'd always get a Z-Wave lock if I could,
especially
as opposed to an IP or a Bluetooth or something like that.
Yeah, even with the Z-Wave locks, they've got like you have to use the Z-Wave security classes as well. I think so. They knew that these were going to be like precious devices, so they put in the spec a bit more security around them too.
Yeah. Do you have that connected to your Google Homes or anything like that in any way, just to say, hey, lock the door? Or
I do. So not directly, obviously through Home Assistant I do that. So just have automations written that will do that. I don't have them. You cannot unlock them from the Google Home, but you can lock them, and they automatically lock at like certain times at night in case I've forgotten.
Yeah, and that's a security feature built into Google Home, right? Where you can't unlock, or you need a PIN to unlock, or something like that.
Yeah, you can set it to need a PIN. You can also disable that feature, though.
Right.
Where you don't need to. But yes, that is a security feature. Yeah.
Which is perfect. Yeah. Again, still more jealous.
It's been great. I think a lot of my motivation was just around just making things more secure.
Yeah, for sure.
For the smart home. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. So it sounds like the typing in the PIN number, or whatever. That's one way of. I know you said, for kids and stuff, that's, you can keep track of it. Do you do anything else for presents or any of those kind of?
Yeah, I just used the basic in-map presence detection in Home Assistant, and it's worked great. I know some people have said it hasn't been good. Like I'm not going to get room-to-room presence detection with that, but just as far as knowing people are home, it works great. Yeah.
You can always yell for your kids.
Yep.
And I've always thought, like, you don't, like, if you've got your phone on charge in the kitchen and you're walking around, you don't necessarily you want other forms of in-room presence, right? That don't require someone carrying a device on them. So, yeah, that's cool.
Interesting. How about delivering notifications and things like that? What are you doing there?
So I recently moved to Telegram. I was using Google Hangouts for quite a bit. And then I was worried about the retirement of Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
So at the end of last year, I moved to Telegram, and that works great too. I was I really just wanted something I could see on the desktop on my phone, and I run Linux on my desktop, so I needed something that works well on multiple platforms, and Telegram fit the bill for everything. So
nice.
I went with that.
That was going to be my next question. Why Telegram specifically, right? So but. Okay, that's a great reason, I think, right?
Yeah.
And how did you find the move from Hangouts to Telegram? Like, is it like okay?
It was okay. I mean, I did have to rewrite every single notification,
of course.
The service call is pretty similar, so it wasn't too bad. The setup for Telegram takes a few steps, or at least took me a few steps, because I hadn't been using Telegram before that.
Yeah, right.
But it's just a one-time thing, and then just had to go rewrite all of those notifications.
Yeah. Have you got to the point, like I see people all the time with Telegram, they do like Telegram bots so that they can talk to their house? Have you thought about going to that level?
I've thought about it. And it is a Telegram bot, but I have it. It's really only one-way communication. I don't have it. Yeah. I don't have it process anything that I send back to it yet.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future. I just haven't found enough of a reason to do that to put into work that it would take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. But then, isn't this a home automation podcast? Like, we could just flick lights on and off with a switch, right? Like,
yes.
That's right. I mean, I think my logic too is if just as quickly as I could type it out, I can also just fire up the Home Assistant app.
Right.
Again, using something like Nabu, Casa, especially so then I can get it wherever I am, right? And just turn on and off a light. Again, not that that's necessarily the most optimal way to do it, but if it's a one-off, being like, oh crap, did I leave that thing on and you don't have an automation for that? Okay, well, fire it up and go, right? So
yeah, between that and voice controlled, I just
exactly.
I just haven't found a good reason to do it.
Yeah. I like the idea of being like on the computer at work or something and just opening up a chat window and saying to Home Assistant, is the front door locked, right? And it just responds back yes or no. Like those sort of questions would be cool to be able to query the house for states or something, right? But once again, a lot of work for something that I could just look in the Lovelace UI for.
Exactly.
Yep. And I created like status dashboards just for that. So like I have one that just shows me which doors are unlocked or which lights are on or that kind of thing. And just it's like that was easier to do.
Makes sense. Exactly. It's the same amount of effort to, open an app on your laptop as it is to just go to, whatever your Home Assistant URL is, right?
Yep.
Even if you are outside.
So what is one of your favorite automations that you've done?
Ooh, I think one of my favorites is, it's again, just practicality. So I have a generator and they wanted to charge me for their app to a monthly service fee to just let me know when it's on and when it's off.
What?
And that kind of thing. So I just put a Z-Wave vibration sensor on it. Because the thing is loud and it's vibrating, and that tells me when it's on and it's off, and I can track how long it's been on and all that kind of stuff, and which helps me with some of the maintenance and other things. And I don't need to pay their monthly service fee for features that are in the actual generator. If I pulled it up and looked at the console in there, I could probably find all that stuff. So they're just charging me for nothing.
Oh, that's you know what? Good on you. That's just frustrating at that point. That's a we can charge you because we can.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Which is,
So it's just a simple automation. It just checks if it's vibrating or not and sends me a message saying it's on and it's off, which is good to know when I'm not home that the power's gone out. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. I was gonna say, could you also just put like with those passive like energy clamp things coming on the feed from the generator?
Yeah, I thought about that one, but again, this was even easier. So.
Yeah, listen, I love that. That's fantastic. Good on you. It's the every bit of like the rebel in me is like, yeah, man. I think it's just a principle of charging for something so basic. And listen, I get they're not a charity. I get all that, right? But
yeah, the price of the generator lets me know they're not a charity. So.
I'm sure.
I don't need the service fee.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, like it is thinking outside, right? Like, you could have maybe gone into the console and hacked something out of it, like reading it off the screen or something, or, as Rohan has the clamps on. Or you could just go really ghetto, simple, and go, yep, this is it, bam, right? Like, done. Like vibration center, like done.
Yep.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of just the simple things, right? Like it's and I think I've talked about it quite a bit, and Phil's talked about it quite a bit. Is just the simpler you can keep it, the nicer it is, right? Like I know Phil uses vibration sensors for and those passive electrical clamp things to kind of determine, hey, is my dryer on? Is my dishwasher on? Whatever, right? Like, why am I going to spend $1,000 to buy a smart dishwasher when I can buy one for a couple $100 and then stick a $20 sensor on it?
Yeah.
Literally like a power monitor and a door open close sensor, and you're done, right? Like,
yeah.
The other thing is you can't turn those things on remotely, but then I don't necessarily want to do that,
Yeah.
So how many, like, you've got, like, your son is in your smart home. Anyone else that you have to account for? Like,
So yeah, I've got 2 sons and a wife, and yes, I have to account for all of them with everything that I do.
Of course.
Which does change some of the things, makes a lot of things harder to automate that I'd like to automate. I don't automate anything on anybody else's presence but mine for the most part. But yeah, I have to make sure everything works because I'm the only one who's ever going to go to the Home Assistant UI and do anything.
Yeah.
So it either needs to work by voice or automatically for the most part. And so I have to do a lot of thinking about that when I'm working on different projects.
I think that works pretty good as well for, like non-family users of the home too, right? Like, as long as it's just a human in there interacting with the home, it doesn't matter if they're family or not, it needs to work, right?
Yeah.
I think our design principles are very similar here too. it's you got to interact with it. It's got to be voice or nothing, right? Or it drives itself, right? So
that's right. Or the regular thing still works, like the light switch or the power button. Those actually have to still work.
Yeah.
Have you replaced those with like smart switches?
So for most of those, I haven't changed the actual switch. I've just put either a microcontroller behind it or a Shelly behind it. So most of them still look like the original switch, except that they're now all toggle switches instead of on-off.
Right.
Which throws some people sometimes, like, because I didn't change the switch. It'll say off when it's on if somebody used the voice or something, but...
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And is it those like paddle ones that are or like an actual flip?
It's actual flip.
Okay. So it really is confusing then at that point.
It can be, yeah. They're all basically 3-way switches now. But and I guess I could go through the work of changing them out so they don't have the little labeling that say on and off. But, I think everybody in the family anyway has gotten used to that. So
it's look up. If you can see, flip it, and you can't see anymore.
That's right. That's pretty much how it works.
That's funny.
How are you driving your automations? Are you doing like you YAML or do you have Node-RED?
I'm doing YAML. I thought about doing Node-RED, but the old school in me is just used to writing code. And I like being able to just change things quickly.
Yep, totally agree.
I once tried the Home Assistant automation generator.
Yeah.
After I had written automations, and unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize it would overwrite my entire automation file and get rid of all of my comments and everything.
Oh, no. Please tell me you had a backup.
I did have a backup, except for the latest automation I had written. Okay. And I had no idea, so I'll never do that again. So I'm always probably just going to be YAML.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was... I had there should be a warning somewhere for that.
I thought there was, but
I think the very first iterations they had like a warning out, and then I think once again like things like this, right? Like people were losing their comments, or the YAML was being like restructured, and just became unreadable, right?
Yeah.
I think that, and I could be wrong here. I think they do now keep the comments some way. Or they attempt to keep the comments, but I don't think it can never be perfect. Once the system needs to rewrite the YAML file, you lose ownership of it basically.
It was great that it worked, though. I mean, it was actually pretty easy to make an automation through the interface, but I didn't want anything I had already written to be messed with. So
yeah.
I think if you expand your automations out into packages, you can then have automations from the UI in an automations YAML file. So then you have like your automations in packages and then the UI generated automations just sitting in automation.yaml.
That makes sense. I've thought about going to packages, but that's again, if you could figure out my style, that's been a more work than it's been worth it for me at this point. Although I'm way past 100 automations at this point, and
you're in one file.
Probably would help me all in one file. But find and replace works fine.
Visual Studio Code has like find and replace across files. Yeah, like you need to move to files now.
Yeah.
I probably do, and just to organize everything better. Yeah. Not to mention the number of scripts I have too.
I did go through that exercise. It's not bad at all, right? I just do a directory merge and just literally cut paste into individual files, and I think it probably took me about 10-15 minutes to do it, and then it was a troubleshooting for another 10 minutes to be like, why isn't my merge working, and then realize I'm using the wrong one and whatever. But it works great.
I honestly think where I get hung up is I probably spend hours thinking about how I would logically organize them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's and if it's any help, I mean, the way I did it was I just did it by automation, right? So one automation is one file.
Oh, okay.
Right. And I just said, okay, because then now I have individual automations and individual files, and I can say it's super easy for me to find what I want. Now, with all of this said, I did move to Node-RED probably a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, but even in general, even with YAML, I found that was an amazing way to kind of thing. And my file names were descriptive enough that I was like, and sometimes I did group a couple into one, but it was like if at one point I had like a door open and then a door closed, or like my garage door being open because that's a cover, and then my other things open as a door. And those ones, I'm like, you know what? They're similar enough. I just stuck them in the same file.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no hard fast whatever.
I should probably do it. I just been putting it off.
Yeah. It honestly, it is quite a bit easier to use, and I just think it's more efficient.
I found
parse it.
For me, going like based on room. So I would start with like a bedroom YAML file, and I'll put all the automations for the bedroom in that YAML file. And then when that gets too big, I would then break that out into like bedroom lights or the bedroom TV. So then all the automations for like the bedroom lights are in one file, for the bedroom TV are in another file. And then all the bedroom TV that's got the Roku on it will then have the Roku in that package along next to its automations. Just keeps it all bunched up together.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Or you can just go the way Frank works, and I don't even know. He uses packages in a completely different way to everyone, I think.
Yeah, I know he modified it from the last time I looked at it, because I actually did use most of my stuff is structured from one of his iterations of stuff, of his config, and to me it was just, I was looking through it, and at first I was like, how is this organized? And I was like, oh my god, this is so logical. This, like it, to me it was exactly the way my brain worked. So I was like, oh, this is cool. So I went through this whole like project and moved it to that, and worked fantastic for me, at least, right? And I think that's the thing. You just gotta, it depends on how your mind operates, right? And based on that, you'll be fantastic at, you'll be a lot happier with it, right? Rather than scrubbing through 100 plus automations in a single file.
Yeah. It's not fun. I know better. I just never thought it would explode quite that much that fast. It's like, I just want to write a new one. I don't want to organize it.
Yeah.
What security system, you mentioned before that everything ties into a security system. Have you got like an alarm control panel that like is integrated into Home Assistant?
Yeah, it's a 2 gig alarm control panel it's actually integrated through alarm.com and using custom components, since it's kind of a web scraper, so it's not officially supported anymore. So it's the one custom component I still hang on to that's not fully integrated, but the alarm system is too important to let it go. So and it helps with a lot of things with, when the alarm arms, the locks lock, and we have other automations where, like, I call it my wife's turn down button. She can just press a button and it'll turn off all the lights on the first floor and then illuminate lights that head up to the bedroom, arm the alarm, and then give you a notification saying, "Oh, that's happened. Good night." So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you find or do you have the ability that when someone punches in a code from a Z-Web lock that then disarms the alarm panel, or do they have to go in?
I do, and I used to do that, and then I just thought, I don't feel so safe with that. After I started giving the kids numbers to the locks, so I actually disabled that.
So in the event that one of your kids comes home, do they then have to go up to the alarm panel to disarm the alarm as well?
Yeah, I don't have that able anymore to be disarmed by voice. If they would just learn to use though you can disarm it using Home Assistant, but they would actually have to go to the interface to do that. So
right.
But no, that still is. I have them do that manually, and I don't have to. I just have to think very hard and deep about what things I'll allow to automatically disarm the alarm.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think, and that's probably a fair way to think about it. What is authorized to disarm this alarm, right? Like, do you want to automate that or not? And I think, that makes sense.
Yeah, when it was just me, once I punched in the code, the alarm would disarm.
Yep.
I wasn't going to do anything else. Yeah.
Yep.
Have you thought of anything security wise, like I guess an infosec wise for in terms of that? Because it does have Home Assistant does have access to your alarm system now. How are you doing anything to protect that, or?
I mean, nothing more than I normally do for my home network and other things. I just most of my protection is just monitoring.
Yeah,
and having a good firewall. So
there,
I do centralize. I get notified when a new device joins my network or that kind of thing.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it.
Nice. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but security is always a big thing. Like one of the things I added for security wise is these little panic buttons around the house. So I use one of those Sonoff RF bridges, and I can buy cheap 433 megahertz devices to use around the house.
Yeah.
And one of the things I use a lot are the buttons, just little push buttons.
Yeah.
And so I have one of those placed strategically in different places in the house. This is when I started leaving my kids home alone because, again, I'm paranoid. And you can just press a button, and then it'll send a Telegram notification and a text to my wife and I. It'll tell you the location of where it's at. And it's just basically a panic button that says, and, I've given instructions to my kids of what they should do when there's an intruder or something if they happen to be home. And they can just press one of those buttons and go to where they're supposed to go, and then we'll know. And it also turns on this, there's a light that I have outside my house. It'll just turn it red.
Yep.
So I'll know. So doing little things like that, a lot of my motivation for the smart home stuff was security.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'm guessing if there's a button in the living room on the couch, they'll press that button, it'll send you an alert to say, the living room couch button got pressed. Take your action. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
That is actually really, really good. I really like that. I wish one of my biggest things is I really wish Amazon open sourced their dash buttons.
Yeah.
Because those things are just so freaking cool. Because they power themselves, right? So the when you push the button is actually how the dash button turns on with the power generated by you pushing the button.
Really? I thought they were battery based, and they were so cheap that they would just they'll give you a new one every few years.
I don't believe so. I think they're actually there's some term for it.
There's the kinetic energy, right? Because I know the Philips Hue tap button, they've got the big circle one with the 4 buttons. That's all powered by you pressing the button.
Yes.
But I didn't think that the Amazon Dash ones were.
But it's ugly, and that's the difference, right? The dash buttons are not.
It is, yeah. It looks like a big hockey puck.
Right, exactly. Right. So it's.
Yeah, that is cool because one thing that a smart home will get you if you get a lot of sensors and stuff is a nice schedule of replacing batteries all the time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
I think half of your automations in Home Assistant are just, tracking batteries of all your devices around the house, right?
Yes. I do have a dashboard just for batteries. Yeah.
Of course. That's why I try and power as much as my Z-Wave motion sensors now, because I was just replacing batteries every week, in all the motion sensors. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then the new ones from AOTech, the Multi-Sensor 6, they don't use AA or AAA batteries anymore. You've got to get these fancy, special
CR123s
exactly.
Or whatever that they use.
Yeah, that's what a couple of my my tilt sensors use for my garage doors. They use those, and it's So I have this whole set of different size batteries that I have to go around the house using and trying to remember. I can't remember half of them, so I don't know until I open it. I guess I could write it down somewhere, but it's I know I'm going to do it anyway.
I know. It's. I think I've gotten, except for one motion sensor, I think I've gotten it down to either the CR123 or the I forgot what it is, the watch battery one.
The 2045.
The 2032.
The 2032s. Yeah. So it's one of those two. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm good, except for one of my motion sensors, which is ancient, and that uses something else, and it was so frustrating. Yeah, and some of these, the one on the motion sensor, I think it costs $10 for a battery. That's the problem, right? And it's
and you can't get a rechargeable one because there is such a niche size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the rechargeable ones typically suck after like 3 recharges.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it's as much as there's like, oh yeah, NIMH and there's all these different technologies. Oh, this one doesn't preserve memory. Yeah, they all suck. and that's the problem. So
yeah, I have had one real problem with batteries, and that was with my front door lock. Because mine's old enough, it doesn't have one of those things where you can just like give it a quick charge in the front. So
really?
The batteries ran out while I was gone, and I don't normally take my key.
Oh no! So that is my fear.
I couldn't actually unlock the door.
Yeah.
I do keep there is a place I can go get a key, but now, and so that's what made me start religiously tracking the battery power.
Yeah.
So that'll never happen to me again because I get a notification when it hits this certain battery level and go change it.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. What batteries do they take?
It just takes AA.
Okay.
It's pretty big. It takes 4 AA's. They usually last anywhere from 4 to 6 months, so it's not that bad.
Okay.
It's just that before I was tracking it, I didn't actually know when it would be gone.
Until you get home at at 3 a.m. in the morning and then need to get in quietly, and it's not. That's interesting. And but I thought the new ones would allow you to like put a 9-volt battery on the front of them or something.
Yeah, the new ones do that, and mine are pretty old. They don't have any feature like that at all.
I mean, you also then need to carry that battery around with you in the case that you can't get into your front door, right?
Or that could be dead if you just store it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's such common
the best
problems.
thing is real tough problems. Every 6 months, it's a chance that I might be locked out of my own house. All I have to do is carry a key. It still takes a key.
Yeah.
Nah, that's not worth it,
man. No.
No. I'd rather just track the battery and make sure it's charged. Yeah.
See, what you do is make sure one of your kids or somebody else carries a key, and that way you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, my wife always carries her key, so if I'm with her, I don't have any issues.
Yeah.
I often leave the house without any keys at all because my goal is to get rid of any keys. I either combination lock or something smart.
Yep.
To me, like the idea of that sounds so freeing. Like just to be able to walk out and walk back, like, and everything's secure. Like, that is the goal, right?
Yep.
It is freeing. I've mostly gotten there, I think. And it is so nice. The only thing I wish I could digitize is my driver's license. Then I don't need to carry my wallet. Between like Apple Pay and all of that stuff, then it's like I literally just need to leave with a phone. That's it.
Yeah. So. It's nice to like just go for a bike ride, and that would be all you need.
Yeah. Or you're going to the gym, or you're whatever, right? Like yeah.
I don't. It's nice. I've pared it down. I used to have to take the whole key fob. I'm just thinking back over the iterations, just little things that I've just when I was thinking about it just a couple days ago that I just don't even have to take anymore. Now when I go to bike ride, I take my phone and my ID, and that's it. Like I said, it'd be great to get rid of the ID. I do keep like a picture of my ID in the cloud, so I can access it anywhere, just in case. That won't work at most places, but if I needed identification or something like that, or happen to lose it, that would be helpful.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense, right?
But it'd be great to not have to carry it at all and have an official license that you could use or ID that you could use in places.
Yeah. I heard a rumor somewhere that apparently Ontario was like investigating and looking at like electronic driver's licenses and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, please hurry up. And it's if your phone dies, then you're on the hook. You know what? I will take that risk.
Yeah. There's lots of other problems if your phone dies too.
Yeah.
I have bigger problems. Exactly. Like I can't drive my car. So I wouldn't be worrying about me not being able to drive not being able to show my driver's license for the car if I can't drive it. Right. So it's
so many places to charge your phone these days.
Oh, that's it. Right.
The worst is if your motherboard breaks, right? Then you're really screwed.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Rebuild everything on your phone.
Yeah.
So I'm now stuck to this phone. I can't get a new phone. It's but no, we've come a long enough way. So this is the most first world problem, I think.
Another one of my favorite things is just being able to automate the fireplace. I'm sure I've broken codes to do that.
Ooh.
So the fireplace is I just used a Shelly, and it took me a while to get comfortable with automating the fireplace because it's a fireplace.
Of course.
Just a gas fireplace, and I didn't want to mess with anything.
Nothing can go wrong.
Yeah, nothing. I want to make sure nothing could go wrong. So I, it's powered by a millivolt, and so it's, there's not really any power going through it. So I think about how I was going to power a smart switch, and I ended up using a Shelly. And luckily for me, mine is in the same switch gang box as the fan control, which does have power. Although I don't have a fan, they just installed a fan control, but no fan.
Nice.
But it does get
makes sense. Yeah,
yeah, it does get power going to it, mains power going to it. So I just kind of ran the mains power from that one to the other one, which is probably where I'm violating code and the building code, and to the Shelly. And then the Shelly, since it's a dry contact, is pretty safe. So it's not going to send that mains power to the fireplace to keep that safe. And so that way I can automate the fireplace pretty well, and it can still use the switch to turn it on and off. And in many ways, in my opinion, it's actually safer. So like now that it's connected with Home Assistant, it'll automatically turn off when the temperature in the room gets too warm. Mm-hmm. Or I'll automatically turn it off after 2 hours, just because there's usually no reason. We usually have the fireplace on for more than 2 hours, and it's easy enough to turn back on.
Right.
So in many ways, it's safer. But it did take me a while to come to a design and an implementation that I felt comfortable with.
Of course.
Any chance of blowing up the house.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Especially with a gas fireplace, you want to be you want to be careful of that. So
if it was to be manually turned on, would the state of the fireplace be reflected in Home Assistant as on? Yeah,
because the Shelly has the little input for knowing when a switch has been hit, so that just sends that information back, and so I know when it's on or off. Yeah,
perfect.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So that would then give you another degree of confidence that if Home Assistant says it's off, then it is actually off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So in many ways, to me, it's safer. So.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that is actually a really cool automation, right? Because I know a lot of people do RF based whatever, because a lot of these fireplaces are remote RC control, whatever, right? So a lot of people do RF based whatever or things like that. So I do really like the use a Shelly, and because mine upstairs it's got a switch as well, and same thing, right? Like it's a paddle switch, you just flick it on, flick it off kind of thing. But yeah.
The only problem I have now with the way that I've done it is if the power is actually off, the fireplace won't work, which before it would, because it wasn't actually powered by power. I can still manually turn it on if I opened up the switch box and connected the wires myself.
Hot wired it, yeah.
Yeah, but now when the power is off, there is no fireplace. You can't just control the fireplace, which is not a big deal now that I have a generator, so it all works together.
That's right. That's right.
I think the only other thing that might be of interest to people that's taken a lot of my time over last year is maybe the LED lights that I've installed around the house that make things happy when we've been at home, although we're starting to leave the house now these days.
Oh yeah,
but yeah.
So what, in terms of you just use Philips Hue around the house, or
no? So I've gone and used WLED and LED strips and LED strings all around the house in various places. And
on the ceiling or
So I've got some in the kitchen on over the cabinets. I've got some outside on the deck and on the gutter line.
Yep.
And the cool thing about it is, one, now when Christmas comes, I don't have a whole lot to install because I just have them there all the time.
Yep.
And two, now since I've been home a lot, I've decided that I'll just run them all year. And so I just have different themes that I run for different times of the year for the lights. So since WLED is really customizable for the lighting displays and the lighting animations that you can do. So here in the States, we have Memorial Day and we have the 4th of July. So right now I'm on USA colors, red, white, and blue.
Right.
Nice.
And around Christmas time, I'll do Christmas automations where it's Christmas colors. And then I'll have so you mentioned the Philips Hue. I use the LifeX lights for outdoors. So I'll have those changed to be a color that matches the theme of the LED strips and strings. So it's just something to play with. And then I just pick different theme for autumn, different theme for spring, and just have different colors around the house all the time.
That's nice.
We rent here, and So that means, no painting or anything like that. So we have Philips Hue everywhere, right? Yeah. And it is awesome to have, like, from the street, I can see, like, inside the house, like different colors of, the house, right? Like just shining through. I've got like a nanoleaf canvas on the wall that, just plays with different light colors. I think LED lights and just the different colors can just add a whole different dimension to a house. Yeah. Like, it's awesome. One thing I also use the lights around the house for is notifications. Like, so based on different things. So if the washing machine's done, all the lights are green, right? Dishwasher's done, all the lights are pink, just to give a subtle, notification that, something needs attention. Yeah. So
yeah, that's a great idea. I just started getting into actually doing that. Aside from like the panic light I mentioned earlier, just to turn that red. I do have one light in the house that I change a different color when the mail is delivered. So I have one of those ring mailbox sensors.
Yep.
And then so when the mail is delivered, there's a light that turns purple basically in the house. And then when we go pick up the mail, it turns off. So
nice.
That's cool.
I also use, I don't know if Google Home allows you to, but in the Amazon Echo, you can track when a timer is going to be done. So when the timer's done, it'll be ringing in the kitchen. I'll have all the lights in the whole house flash, so that if you're cooking something in the kitchen, and you can't hear the echo ringing, you go, oh, cool, the timer's done, right? Go take the stuff out of the oven, right, so it doesn't burn.
I probably underutilized the ability to use the colored lights for notifications and stuff. I got to think through some of that stuff. Yeah,
yeah, it's just another element to pull, right? For just. Again, very primitive notification. It's flashing. Something's happening, right? Like, so.
Are your LED lights addressable, or is it like you get to choose one color for the whole strip?
They're addressable, so
really,
I get pretty good designs. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's the next level I want to get to. Yeah. Did you have to build them yourself, or did they come as a kit?
So I'm using WLED, the little Node MCU controllers, is what I use, and then. I did, so for the longer runs, I did have to do a little bit I didn't have to, but I chose to do a little bit of soldering for some of the power injection to make them go longer.
Yep.
But for the most part, if you're comfortable soldering, it's easy to do. I mean, it's as easy as it gets.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And I'm not all that comfortable soldering. I hadn't actually done much in a long time.
Yeah.
Most of my soldering has been for the LEDs, and it's a good thing that you put heat shrink over it or electrical tape, so you can't see how bad of a job I did. And it conducts the electricity and it works. So that's the goal has been achieved.
Yeah.
Hanging them up and wrapping them probably takes some time. Like one of them, to get to my roof, I had to get on the ladder, and my not always my favorite thing to get that high up.
Yeah.
But putting them together and then programming the chip is pretty straightforward.
Do you do any like for outside? Because this is actually something I looked into a couple of years ago trying to do it. And have you put like a diffuser on there or anything like that, or do you just do the straight lights and it looks good, or what do you do?
So I for the way my gutters work, there's no good place to put a diffuser. I tried that. There's no good place to nail them where you could actually still see the lights.
Right.
So I ended up using just standard gutter clips for the ones in my gutter. For the other ones, they're either under a eave, so they don't really need a diffuser. You can't actually see them so much. It might make them look a little better, but you can't really see them anyway. So I just using tape and some hooks to keep them up there.
Okay.
So I've gone the as usual, the really easy route.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I like that.
I looked for many ways to use a diffuser because I thought that would be an easier and cleaner install. Because I didn't, but the way my gutters are made, without drilling into the gutter, which isn't a good idea, I couldn't find a good place to put them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a hassle.
Yeah. No. Okay. Food for thought.
All right, cool. Well, Marlon, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having this podcast. I mean, I do listen to it. It's where I get all my information for all the new releases, which I really appreciate. And then you guys always have great guests who have done great things. So I love listening to the podcast. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. And where can people get the Smart Home Manual?
You can get it on Amazon. You could probably order it from your local store if you wanted to too. But Amazon's the primary place where it's at. Yep.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right.
We'll leave links in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Take it easy, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
If If you want to share your home assistant journey or come on as a guest, reach out to us at feedback@haspodcast.io. That's HASS podcast.io.
The Home Assistant Podcast is hosted by Phil Hawthorne and myself, Rohan Karamandi. For links to topics we discussed today, check out our show notes on haspodcast.io.